Hey guys, this is Robin, RsIslandCrafts. Today is Monday, January 2nd, 2017. Happy New Year! Welcome to my podcast. This is a podcast about crafting things, whether it's knitting or embroidery or cross stitch or quilting or whatever I happen to find that interests me at the moment. Alright, let's see, have we finished anything this week? Yes. A couple things that I finished that I'd started earlier for my son's boss. She is a big time Disney villain fan. She really likes the Disney villain characters. She's the one that I made the cross stitch project bag for. She's the one I made the cross stitch She's the one I made the Mickey Mouse ears that were shaped like Stitch out of cross stitch. I made her, previously I'd made her those fun Mickey Mouse ears that they're all wearing at the parks nowadays, where you've got different patterned fabric for the ears instead of just black. And this is some of the female villains, Maleficent and the Wicked Witch with the apple from Snow White and the 101 Dalmatians. Obviously, I'm not a Disney fan. Inside, I just used this Flames blue and black fabric. Nice little zipper. It's got the boxed bottom. And a little taffeta ribbon. See? Nice, nice, nice. And I still had some fabric left over, so I went ahead and made her another bag. This one has the purple striped fabric in between with the villain fabric. And I used snappers on top, little poppers. Another squared off bottom. This time I went ahead and I sewed up all along the sides and the bottom to make it have that lunchbox feel to it. So it sits nicely, and it's got a handle in case she wants to take it anywhere. And to close it all up, all the little poppers. Ta-da! Stripes matched up pretty nice, huh? Sometimes I amaze myself. Now my big finishes were the 2 weeks to a finish that I was talking about at the last podcast. I went ahead and finished the snowflake runner. I'm just calling this winter. I quilted it all over, which is a simple meander pattern in white thread. And then I just used some fun Christmas fabric in blue and red to bind it. I felt like doing a little handwork, so this time I hand stitched the back down. Look at that. Nice, nice stitches. And I went with the simple hexagon for the little tag on the back. Simply my name, 2016, and the name of the runner is Winter. So this will get put away and we'll use it next winter. The other 2 weeks to a finish that I had was September's calendar quilt. This one also was just the top. So what I did with this one is I went ahead and did the buttonhole stitch, the hold down, each of the appliques. I meandered in a variegated thread for the quilting. But in the blackboard, I went ahead and just did squiggly lines in black. I left the center part of the leaf and all the letters unquilted. And the binding is the same fabric I used on the back, but this time, instead of hand stitching it down, I used a variegated thread and a fancy stitch. You can see the variegated quilting really good here. And then I just machine stitched it down. And I had this really fun fabric for the back. I really like this fabric. Rulers, and then the ABCs on the chalkboard, stars. And it carries over really well to the front. This one doesn't have a label on it yet. I want to make a little chalkboard and then do some hand embroidery of the label in white to make it look like a chalkboard. That's all that I finished. Now the other things that I was working on, in my Winnie the Pooh drawstring bag, by me, one of my prototypes. And again, I make a design, keep the first couple tries for myself, and then put the rest in the shop. This one has a shawl I'm working on from Kay Jones and the Bakery Bears. I'll have to put a link down to the pattern because I don't remember the name of it. I'd already made it past this when I worked on it earlier in the year. Hey, Mocha. Do something different in your room and you know the cats are always going to come by and see. But because I couldn't figure out exactly where it was, and I am holding the yarn double, and I dropped one of the stitches of the double yarn. So I decided it's best if I just go ahead, pull it all out and start over, and then make sure I have the right tension still. From your tension changes over time, so this one I'll have the same tension. I'll have the shawl. It'll be nice. I am using the Michaels Loops and Thread wool-like yarn. This one is just plain red, as I said, held double. And then the other one is charcoal, a gray, once again, held double. Not sure if I'll actually wear a shawl out because it doesn't get too cold here, but it would be nice to have one just to put over my shoulders when it gets cold in the living room. The other knitting that I was working on is I'm still working on my son Robbie's socks in my box bag. I am working on the gusset increases right now. This is where I was last time we talked on this sock. It's just a plain vanilla sock. I like to put these little stitch markers in every 10 rows because for these socks he needs 79 rounds. So this way, instead of constantly counting to see if I'm getting there, I'm getting there, I'm getting there, I'll have it all marked and I can just count by tens. It saves a lot of time that way because I think we spend a lot of time just counting over and over again where we could be knitting. And these socks are done on my Chow Goo, and they're size 1, and the yarn is, I have my show notes down here, and Mocha keeps shaking the table. Best way to get Mocha to go away is to bring Kitty Kitty. Hi Kitty Kitty. This is Miss Mocha Latte. This is my daughter's cat. She's a little skittish, but anytime Mama's in here crafting, she likes to lay on the table. I'm in Mocha. Yeah, I'm going to say hi. Okay, run away. Hey! No growling at Mama. Get. Alright. So, I am knitting these with Barocco socks, colorway 1477. Blues and greens, and the other sock is just getting ready for the gusset increases. So here I was last time. Here's all my pretty little things, all my stitch markers. I was hoping to have that one done before the start of the year so I can cast on a pair for myself, but I just haven't been interested in knitting. I've been feeling the pull towards hand sewing again. And I also spent a lot of time trying to do the mini advent sock blanket along that everyone was doing. If anyone's paying attention, you might notice that this blanket is actually gotten smaller. There used to be a big chunk right over here, but probably about another 10 squares. I started taking it apart and knitting it into a new blanket because I never seem to be happy with whatever I'm working on. And I saw someone else working on one with the black outline, and I thought, ooh, I love blacks and brights. Let me go ahead and switch over to that. But then I decided, no, I kind of like the craziness of this one. So I took the squares and knitted them from here into this, and then as a crazy knitter, I'm taking the squares from here and knitting them back into this. Because who doesn't like repetition over and over and over again? Those are on size 1, double points, with leftover scraps. Yarn down. Those are done on size 1 double points, and I'm just using leftover scrap yarn that people on Instagram so generously sent to me a couple years ago during the Make Your Christmas Wishes Come True. And I keep it in a little needle minder because I'm always worried that my stitches are going to fall off of anything I'm working on. And that is in a drawstring bag that I won from the Swift Knits podcast by someone who doesn't actually have a shop. She just makes them for fun. And that's all the knitting. I did work on the new cross stitch project a little bit in one of my little quilted cases. I started on my Brooks Books Animal Advent Calendar on the aquamarine Ada fabric, which is 14 count. I used the Rit dye in the aquamarine colorway that I showed you previously. And what I plan on doing is just making the squares, just making all the outlines first, and then I can just go back and do the animals in any which way. I decided to do, let's see if you can see this. I decided to do blocks of 4 red, 4 white, 4 red, 4 white. I'm just working my way around. And instead of cutting off the string, since they're so close, they're only 3 stitches, 3 squares away from each other. After I finished the white, I just went ahead and started the next section until I ran out of thread. And then started back up with the red, and I'm crossing back over. Those are free. It's a free pattern on her website. You're going to find all the links to anything down below. The other thing I've been working on is the Pat Sloan Winter Solstice Quilt-Along. It's a 182-day sewing challenge. And there's going to be 25 blocks, and a new one comes out every Wednesday. They're free blocks. And I'll put a link down below to Pat Sloan's new blog. She has a quilt with me. I love to make quilts.com. And beginning in the winter solstice, which was a couple Wednesdays ago, and ending in the summer solstice, like I said, every Wednesday there'll be a free block. Most of them will be 12 inches finished, which means they're 12 and a half inches before you put them into the quilt. And every now and then, if she just gets feeling a little crazy, she'll give us a bonus block. Now the first one, I went ahead and made, but I forgot that I have to make a few adjustments on my sewing machine to make it a perfect 1/4 inch. So this one is a little bit short. It's about a 1/2 inch too small. But I really love the fabrics, so I'll keep it and either find a way to put it into this quilt or put it into a different one. So I went ahead and made a different one. And I really love this pear fabric. I got this from Connecting Threads. It was in a charm pack bundle, which is 5-inch squares. So I went ahead and made a second one. This fabric has aqua giraffes and birds and gray elephants on it. And this is a fat 1/4 I picked up at Walmart. And then the new block came out. day and night, dark and light. What it is one side you're seeing mainly the dark, and on the opposite you're going to see mainly the light. So you have this block and then the opposite. This is more fabric from Connecting Threads. I like to get their little bundles. And these are almost a perfect 12.5 inches unfinished. Still need just a little bit of tweaking on that. The other thing I started working on is, like I said, I wanted to do some hand quilting. So I got out my Samoan Stars quilt. And this is an EPP, English Paper Piecing Project. And all these little pieces were cut out by hand. And each little piece was hand sewn to the next piece. And with the bright colors, once again, I like the black to go against it, so I went ahead. This is where I'm at right now, sewing this on. I think I'm going to make this for a twin size bed. So it's going to need to be just a little bit wider. But I started working on that again. And I have that in my little trusty bucket, where I have many, many stars in a variety of fun fabrics. These fabrics are from Samoan America, and a lot of them, the fabric is dyed, and then they hand paint these designs on it, and then I believe it's reproduced. So there's a lot of fun colors. So this is my long-term project. This is kind of like a knitter's version. This is a quilter's version of the knitted miter square blanket, where you can just take your scraps, make stars, and add them together. Now with EPP, English Paper Piecing, you take a piece of cardstock, or in this case I use freezer paper. You cut out the little diamond shape, you press it to your fabric, you fold it over, stitch around it, and then you stitch each piece together. Now these, I was using gray thread. You can kind of see it a little bit, which won't really matter too much in the finished quilt, because when you stand back and you start adding all the quilting to it and the rest of the colors, you don't notice. But when I started back up, I started using the black Aurifil thread, which is a very nice thread to hand stitch with. And here, first of all, it's black, so of course it blends in a little better. But you can't see the stitches as much, because after all this time, with all that practice, you tend to get a little bit better. Now when you're stitching these together, you can just use any old thread. You see here, I've got red thread, and that's just going to stay in the back of the quilt and you'll never notice it. As you're going, as you see here, all these pieces are stitched together. I haven't taken the papers out yet, but it's real easy. They're just ironed on. None of the stitching actually goes through the papers. So you just pull it back. These are when I was testing out gluing them. So I glued the fabric to the diamond to save some time, but I find I much prefer hand stitching them, because it gets to be a little bit more of a hassle to get them out. And I don't know, I kind of like the purity of hand stitching them, like the great-great-great-great-grandparents did way back when. And you just take it out. This still has a couple more uses. I can still iron this down to another diamond, and it'll go well. So, and then as you see, like all these, I took all the papers out, because there's another diamond connected to each section. I was doing something different through here, so I'd had them stitched together and then had to undo it. So these I'd already taken out when they should have something in it. And as you can see, as I said, I wasn't really that... I was still new at doing this, so you can see that seam's coming apart, so I'm going to have to restitch that. But any weak spots like that, if I don't catch them now, it'll be okay because I'll be able to catch them when I'm quilting it together, and it'll hold them all together and it'll be fine. So that's my Samoan stars. This is a long-term project. I'll be stitching on this a lot. And since it's a lot of black on black, I tend to do it more during the day when you can see, unless you have a really good light. Keep it in my nice dollar store bin. These things are pretty sturdy. And I like to use my quilt clips to hold it instead of pinning it, because otherwise the pinning will really stab you a lot. So that's all the projects I've been working on. One of the quilting groups that I'm in, Quilting Around the World, is doing a 12-month of UFO, which is going to work really well for my 2 weeks to a finish. What we're doing is we're listing 12 quilting projects, tops, kits, blocks that we want to finish throughout the year. The quilting mama that's running the board is going to choose a random number, and that's the quilt we're going to work on this month. And this month's number is number 4. Now, we were able to also list up to 36 total UFO projects. So she drew a second number for a bonus project, which is number 36. So my number 4 project is my Snowman Hexies. I got the AccuQuilt Go cutter not long after it first came out, and it got really big online. And one of the dies I got were the Hexie dies. And right away I saw snowmen. So I decided to make these 2 wall hangings. But I'm not sure if I like the hexagon snowmen or not. So these are 2 of the projects that's listed as my number. I listed them both as number 4 because they're small. So I'm going to be working on these. I think I'm gonna maybe hand stitch some snowflakes on it. Of course, the snowmen need buttons and a face, and he needs arms. Maybe some snow on the bottom or some snowballs. See if I can jazz it up a little so it's not 2 sad little snowmen just sitting there. And my number 36 project is from a quilt along. Threads everywhere. It's from a quilt along. My number 36 project is from a block swap I did a few years back. And I had done several block swaps. They're really fun. What you do generally in the ones that I joined is you do a 12-inch block. It starts out as 12.5 inches. You lose a 1/4 inch on each side for the seam allowance, so it finishes at 12 inches. And what we were doing is we were making a 9-patch block, which is 9 squares. They end up finishing at 3 inches each, so you've got 3, 6, 9, no, 4, 8, 12, math. So anyway, you got a 12.5 inch 9-patch, and then you also have an applique based on the theme. This one, we were doing a Christmas theme. So I got in all my swap blocks, I sewed them all together, and that's as far as I got. So I'd like to go ahead and get this top finished, since it's number 36, and get this go ahead for our Christmas quilt next year. This is one of my favorites. Hubby likes the sled, and I like the sled too. Gingerbread girl. Sorry about the shaky camera. We got another cat here. Let's see if we can get big old Whiskers to come say hi. This one is what we lovingly call Fat Cat. This girl, we call her Fat Cat. It's Miss Whiskers. She's Robbie's girl. As soon as we got her spayed, she just went poof. And within like 2 weeks, she had this pouchy belly. She gets plenty of exercise and she doesn't get a lot of food. It's just something that happened when she got spayed. Hi, baby. Maybe if we give her loving, she'll stop shaking the camera too. Alright. So, believe all I want for Christmas is you. I think these were supposed to be presents. We have a candy cane. And what we did is we also put our name on these blocks and what state we're from or what country. So this one is a hand embroidered wreath. Very pretty. This quilt will be a nice size for a twin bed. This is made just the same way as I made my Halloween quilt that lays on a twin bed. Ornaments, elf boots, more presents. Here's my melted Florida snowman. Lots of presents on this quilt. So this was really fun to do. I have another one like this still with owls on it. That's on my list. But for right now, this is number 36. And this one needs to be done this month. If you do the blocks, if you do the UFOs that they chose, like the number 4, you get to be entered in a drawing to win a prize. You get a bonus entry. If you just finish a project, you get a standard entry. Miss Mocha's coming to shake the table. And then if you do the bonus one, of course, you get another bonus entry. I have over 36 projects on my list. I know I do. And that's just some of the small ones. I still have a few bigger ones that are put away. I'm hoping to do at least the 2 projects that they've listed. And hopefully a couple more extras just to get it done. You ever seen the back of a quilt? There's the tree. You can see all the seams. They have to get ironed a certain way to make everything lay nice. Miss Mocha wants to see. Miss Whiskers wants to attack Miss Mocha. Aren't they sweet? On the back of a night patch. So that's what I'm going to be working on for the next 2 weeks for my 2 weeks to a finish. Hopefully, everything can get done. Cats. They live in their own world. They just allow us to hang out with them. Alright, so why don't you go ahead and join me for 2 weeks to a finish. And what are you going to work on? So if you'd like to join me for 2 weeks to a finish, now you don't have to actually finish a project. Our goal is to spend the next 2 weeks getting significant progress on these projects to get them to a finish. And it doesn't matter if it's a woodworking project or if it's cross stitch or quilting or knitting or even painting. Whatever you want to work on, it's your projects. Go ahead and get them done and we'll all rally together. Use hashtag 2 weeks to a finish on Instagram and we'll all join in and see what you got going on. That's about it for now. What I'm hoping to do with this podcast is come on the 1st and the 15th of the month. Now, of course, I'm a little bit late this month with Christmas and New Year's. It's been a little crazy like it has for everyone, I'm sure. And hopefully that's what we're going to be doing. Looking forward to it on the 1st and the 15th. Every other Wednesday kind of, is it this Wednesday? Was it last Wednesday? I don't know. When should I podcast? 1st and the 15th. Simple. Podcast before the 1st. Edit it, upload it, it's ready. All done. I think I can handle that. I'm already late this month, so I don't think I can handle it. So be on the lookout. If you go ahead and click the subscribe button and then click the little bell next to it, you'll get the notifications of whenever a new episode comes up and you'll be all ready. Plus, if I do anything in between that time, any tutorials or any out and about videos, you'll also get notification of those. One of the tricky things YouTube is doing right now is if you haven't watched a video in a certain amount of time from a channel, a podcaster, they're going to decide that you no longer want to watch them. So they're going to go ahead and unsubscribe you. But if you hit that little bell for notifications, then they'll leave you alone. So if it takes you a month or 6 weeks to watch your podcast, it's okay. Because if you're like me, you probably got 100 or more. I've heard people have 500 podcasts they watch. I don't watch that many. And then this way you won't get unsubscribed. Because when you have that many, you really won't notice if you've missed one or two. You'll just think that podcaster haven't podcasted in a while and you'll forget about them. So if you don't want to forget about anyone, hit the little bell. Ring that bell. Alright, that's it from me from sunny Florida. I hope your weather is beautiful. I hope your days are going nice. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.